5 boundaries. Men must set early or she'll walk all over you. If you've ever felt a woman's respect for you slowly erode, leaving you confused and wondering when it all began, this insight is for you. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Women don't accidentally walk all over men. They do it when a man fails to establish clear, unshakable boundaries early enough to prevent it. In the initial stages of dating, 5 critical boundaries determine whether she sees you as a man worthy of profound respect or one she will eventually take for granted. Miss even one of these, and you'll find yourself months later overgiving, bewildered, and asking why the entire dynamic flipped against you. This isn't about harshness, manipulation, or playing petty games. It's about a profound understanding of the precise moments men unknowingly surrender their leverage and how to halt that slide before genuine attraction degrades into mere tolerance. If you don't grasp these 5 fundamental boundaries now, you won't just lose her respect, you'll lose yourself in a futile attempt to reclaim it. While most advice merely teaches men to react, this wisdom instructs you how to position yourself so powerfully that you never have to react at all. The true difference isn't simply confidence or charisma, it's fundamental structure. Boundaries forge that structure, and that structure determines who leads the dynamic and who is forced to adapt to it. You won't want to miss the final habit, or 99% will remain stuck in this problem for life. Earned trust. Never open financial access before she has genuinely earned it. Many men mistakenly equate sharing with bonding, believing that talking about their financial standing is just part of an authentic, relaxed conversation. They think they're being transparent, creating intimacy, but on the other side of the table it lands very differently. For a woman, early financial disclosures are not intimacy. They are raw data. The instant you begin to speak of your income, your investments, the cost of your car, or the elaborate trips you envision, something subtle but irreversible ignites. You cease to be a man she is discovering, a mystery to unravel, and immediately become a man she is measuring. This isn't an emotional assessment, it's a practical, often cold evaluation. This is what unfolds as the provider audition. She hasn't chosen you, she hasn't committed her deepest self, she hasn't truly invested in the unique man you are. Yet, you've already stepped onto a stage, unknowingly proving your utility. The insidious part is that you rarely even perceive it happening. You might mention your salary in an offhand comment, joke about a significant bonus, or casually discuss how much you've managed to save. You genuinely believe you're just making conversation, but in her mind, a quiet, calculated assessment begins. Stability, capacity, and access. From that pivotal moment onward, her attraction ceases to be primarily emotional and morphs into a starkly evaluative process. Here's the truth most men desperately avoid confronting. Once a woman begins to appraise your wallet, she stops truly feeling you. Curiosity transforms into cold calculation. Raw tension dissolves into a burdensome expectation. And no, she doesn't need to explicitly ask you for money for this devastating shift to occur. All she needs to do is observe how freely you expose your financial world, how eagerly you signal your capacity to provide, how swiftly you convert your financial life into a fragile proof of your intrinsic worth. Men often fall into this trap because they've been conditioned to believe that provision equals value, that financial security directly translates to desirability. But early on, provision doesn't ignite attraction, it catastrophically replaces it. You are no longer the man she deeply desires. You become the man she is assessing for what she can extract. This is precisely why this boundary is so profoundly critical in the nascent stages. Once that foundational frame changes, you cannot ever reclaim it. You cannot talk your way out of being evaluated. You cannot charm your way back into the captivating mystery you once were. The second she starts measuring your wallet, attraction ceases its emotional dance and becomes a purely transactional exchange. When you prematurely step in to solve her financial challenges, a critical shift occurs, and it is never in your favor. You don't become her respected partner. you become her unappreciated support system. That's the crushing role downgrade most men never see unfolding until it's too late. The instant you declare, "I've got you," before any real commitment has formed, you silently volunteer for immense responsibility without any corresponding authority. You bestow provision without ever establishing your rightful position. And once that imbalance hardens, the dynamic becomes rigidly set. She may well appreciate you, but profound appreciation is not fierce desire. Gratitude, no matter how sincere, is not burning attraction. This is precisely where the subtle financial tests commence. They are insidious. She might casually mention how tight things have been, a looming bill that causes her stress, or an expensive car issue that needs fixing. She isn't asking directly, not yet. She is watching you. She is observing how swiftly you react. She's noting if you feel an overwhelming compulsion to rescue her. She is watching whether your nascent boundaries instantly collapse the moment even a whisper of pressure emerges. Most men spectacularly fail here because they confuse raw generosity with decisive leadership. They rush in, convinced it will prove their immense value. In brutal reality, it merely proves their utter predictability. And predictable men are effortlessly slotted into utilitarian roles. The correct boundary here doesn't demand dramatic speeches or defensive explanations. You do not justify. You do not over-explain. You do not apologize for your grounded stance. You remain calm. You remain unshakably centered. You close the door on such overtures without ever slamming it shut. A simple, supportive, yet unequivocally firm statement is all that is required. No offer of financial aid, no guilt-ridden entanglement. And here's the part that catches most men completely off guard. A woman who is genuinely, deeply interested in you will respect this immediately and profoundly. Not because she is testing you less, but precisely because she feels inherently safer with a man who so powerfully protects his own structure. A woman with unclear, opportunistic intentions will feel a profound irritation. She may withdraw. She may lose interest entirely. But understand this, that is not a loss. That is a potent filtration system in action. This boundary doesn't push truly valuable women away. It surgically filters out the ones who were never truly invested in you, only in what you could so easily provide. True leadership begins precisely where access is deliberately controlled. Subtle slips. Never tolerate disrespect, especially when it manifests in its most subtle forms. Most men naively believe disrespect is always loud, obvious, and confrontational, raised voices, blatant insults, clear hostility. This fundamental misconception causes them to tragically miss it when it truly matters, because authentic disrespect never announces its arrival with a grand fanfare. It sneaks in quietly, insidiously, patiently waiting to see if you possess the backbone to stop it. It appears when she interrupts you mid-sentence and continues her own conversation as if you were never speaking. It surfaces when she makes a passive-aggressive joke at your expense, quickly followed by, "Relax, I'm just teasing." It happens when she casually contrasts you with her ex-partner, subtly diminishing your standing, or when she deliberately ignores your messages for hours on end, yet expects your immediate, unwavering replies. None of these moments feel momentous enough for a direct confrontation, and that precisely is why they are so devastatingly effective. From a profound psychological standpoint, this isn't merely cruelty, it's a cold, hard evaluation. She is asking one silent, piercing question. Can I get away with this? Women test boundaries in the same relentless way water tests the integrity of a structure, slowly, incrementally, one small, persistent push at a time. If absolutely nothing pushes back, the pressure will inevitably mount until your entire foundation crumbles. Consider a scenario most men will instantly recognize but rarely ever confront. You are out with her and a group of friends. Everyone is immersed in laughter and conversation. Then, someone innocently asks how things are progressing between the two of you. She smirks, offering a dismissive remark like, "He's fine," when he's not being completely clueless. Her friends chuckle. She joins in the laughter. You, in an attempt to be easygoing, simply smile, rationalizing that it was harmless, that she didn't genuinely mean it that way. But something profoundly significant has just occurred. She publicly lowered your status. She used you as a moment of cheap entertainment, and more critically, she observed your response. Disrespectful tests are not about the exact comment itself. They are entirely about your subsequent reaction, or the complete absence of one. When you allow such an insult to slide, you are not being admirably easygoing or mature. You are unequivocally signaling that your self-respect is a negotiable commodity. You are communicating that your temporary comfort matters more to you than your absolute boundaries. And once a woman internalizes that she can casually step over you without any discernible consequence, she will, not because she is inherently malicious, but because you have meticulously shown her that the line simply does not exist. Silence is not composure, silence is implicit consent. This is the catastrophic error men make when they delude themselves into believing that staying quiet makes them appear calm, mature, or utterly unbothered. In brutal reality, what you are communicating is far simpler and infinitely more damaging. You are telling her in no uncertain terms that this egregious behavior is not only permissible but actively encouraged. When you fail to respond to subtle disrespect, you don't merely freeze the moment. You establish a dangerous precedent, and precedents invariably compound. One small pass turns into another, then another, until the entire dynamic has irrevocably shifted so far that attempting to fix it feels utterly impossible. Here is the cascading chain reaction most men never anticipate. When she disrespects you publicly and you allow it to slide, her friends notice. They do not perceive you as easygoing. They see you as the man who fails to stand up for himself. Their perception shifts first, and her perception inexorably follows. Because once a woman witnesses that you will tolerate being diminished in front of others, she instinctively learns she can do it privately too. The tone of your interactions shifts. The effort she invests precipitously drops. The fundamental attraction between you inexorably erodes. Not overnight, but permanently. High-value men do not respond to disrespect with explosive anger or sarcastic comebacks. They do not seek to embarrass her in return. They do not allow it to spiral into draining drama. They respond immediately, calmly, and directly. One short, concise sentence, devoid of any edge, devoid of explanation, devoid of emotional charge, just a clear, unshakable line drawn firmly in the sand. That precise response accomplishes something extraordinarily powerful. It immediately resets the entire frame. It communicates to her and to everyone observing that you possess enough profound self-respect to halt the moment a boundary is breached. This isn't about controlling her behavior. It is about powerfully enforcing your own unwavering standards. Because authentic respect is never negotiated through endless patience. It is never truly earned through stoic endurance. And it is certainly never preserved by corrosive silence. Respect, fundamentally, is enforced. Guarded schedule. Never make your time freely available just because you like her. This is the point where most men disastrously sabotage themselves before the relationship even has a chance to genuinely form. You mistakenly believe that boundless availability broadcasts your intense interest. You think that saying yes instantly proves your boundless enthusiasm. You are convinced that rearranging your entire life to accommodate her makes you appear deeply invested. From her perspective, it registers as something entirely different. When a man is perpetually available, it doesn't signal fervent desire. It signals a gaping lack of structure in his life. And women do not evaluate men in a vacuum. They meticulously evaluate the entire compelling life that surrounds him. Here's the typical destructive pattern. You encounter a woman who excites you deeply. The chemistry feels potent. Her attention seems incredibly promising. And because you are gripped by the fear of missing this newfound opportunity, you begin to engage in a subtle but utterly destructive behavior. You cancel existing plans. You casually move previous commitments. You strive to remain completely flexible just in case she texts. A dinner with friends suddenly vanishes. Gym sessions are routinely skipped. Your meticulously planned schedule becomes reactive. not intentional, not because you are irresponsible, but because you are terrified of losing the initial momentum. That very fear is what she instinctively perceives. From a profound psychological perspective, a woman isn't merely asking, "Does he like me?" She is asking a far more critical question. Does this man possess a life so robust and anchored that it can truly hold me without completely collapsing under my weight? When your time transforms into an open buffet, she doesn't feel uniquely chosen. She feels merely prioritized at the expense of every other facet of your existence. And paradoxically, that very feeling dramatically lowers her attraction. Men are often misled into believing that scarcity pushes women away. In devastating reality, the complete absence of personal structure pushes them away far more swiftly and irrevocably. A man who instantly drops everything the moment she appears does not look committed. He looks entirely unanchored. And women, instinctively, do not deeply trust men who lack any profound anchors in their own lives. This boundary isn't about engaging in contrived games of hard to get. It is about fiercely protecting the sacred foundation of your entire life. Because when your time loses its inherent value, you, by extension, lose yours as well. A man who treats his time like a precious finite currency is perpetually in high demand. Not because he's playing unavailable, not because he's intentionally playing mind games, but because his life already possesses a powerful, undeniable direction long before she ever steps into it. When you fiercely protect your schedule, something immensely powerful ignites in her mind. She ceases to perceive you as a mere option she can summon at will, and begins to see you as a man she must genuinely meet halfway. Time creates potent anticipation when it is not always immediately on demand. That's the profound distinction most men fail to grasp. They mistakenly believe that saying no will extinguish all momentum. In brutal reality, it sharpens it with unparalleled precision. When you don't jump and cater to her every whim the moment she reaches out, you powerfully signal absolute self-control. And self-control, make no mistake, is one of the most powerful and attractive indicators of profound maturity. Here's how this manifests in the real world. She texts late, wanting to spontaneously see you. But you have an early morning commitment, a scheduled workout, or an important obligation you've already made. The low-value move is to abandon your plans and rush over, hoping it somehow proves your unwavering interest. The truly grounded, high-value move is simple. It is calm, devoid of any spiraling explanations. You acknowledge her message, but you absolutely do not rearrange your meticulously crafted life to accommodate a sudden impulse. That measured response accomplishes two critical things simultaneously. It powerfully demonstrates that your time holds immense value, and it makes the time you do eventually give her feel profoundly intentional, not merely convenient. There is a crucial distinction here. Being merely busy is not inherently attractive. Purpose, however, is intensely magnetic. A man radiating purpose doesn't need to artfully fake scarcity. His entire schedule is a direct reflection of his unwavering priorities. His life possesses an irresistible momentum, and women feel that profound difference instantly. When your time is vigilantly protected, attraction is given the essential space to organically grow and deepen. When your time is perceived as unlimited and freely available, attraction suffocates and dies. You do not win by being constantly present. You win by being consistently and powerfully grounded. Paced intimacy. Never become her emotional dumping ground before she has fully committed to you. This is one of the most insidious and seductive traps men fall into, precisely because it cunningly disguises itself as genuine connection. She opens up to you early, perhaps sharing intimate details about a past relationship, a deep-seated trauma, profound family chaos, or how every man before you caused her immense pain. She might cry on the phone, telling you she has never felt so profoundly understood, and you, in your earnest desire for connection, mistakenly think, this must mean something truly significant. It feels so intimately special. It feels like I'm genuinely different. But understand this crucial truth. Emotional dumping is not true intimacy. It is a covert form of recruitment. What is actually unfolding is simple and stark. She is subtly testing how much emotional labor you are willing to bear before she offers you anything genuinely real and reciprocal in return. And most men, tragically, volunteer for this burden without ever realizing the immense hidden cost. You listen for endless hours. You reassure her tirelessly. You stay up late, calming her anxieties. You offer constant advice. You willingly absorb her entire emotional weight. You become steady, utterly reliable, and seemingly safe. And slowly, quietly, the entire dynamic imperceptibly shifts. You are no longer the man she ardently desires. You are now merely the man she relies on to stabilize herself. Here's the part that inflicts the deepest wound. Men often mistake easy emotional access for profound emotional bonding. They convince themselves, she truly trusts me. What they fail to perceive is that trust, devoid of genuine mutual investment, does not create attraction. It creates mere utility. She will lean heavily on you for comfort, for stability, for an emotional anchor, then turn around and bestow her excitement, her captivating curiosity, and her vibrant unpredictability upon someone else entirely. Not because you have done anything inherently wrong, but because you willingly stepped into the role of therapist or emotional caretaker instead of the respected, desired partner. Masculine polarity dies the moment you prematurely become her emotional container. The tantalizing mystery dissipates, the sexual tension dissolves into bland familiarity, and her core desire flattens. You cannot logically argue your way out of that pre-assigned position. Once you are emotionally categorized as the safe one, that label adheres stubbornly and permanently. This boundary isn't about being cold or unfeeling. It's about meticulously pacing true intimacy. Because when you willingly carry her substantial emotional weight before she has chosen you in a committed sense, you are carelessly giving away your most powerful leverage. Genuine emotional closeness is an extraordinarily potent force, but only when it is truly mutual, only when it is authentically earned through reciprocal investment. Emotional intimacy is a form of precious currency. And like any currency, it rapidly loses all its intrinsic value when it is carelessly handed out without any genuine investment in return. Here's the vital distinction most men never learn. You can be deeply present without becoming overtly responsible for her internal state. You can listen intently without carrying the burden yourself. You can care profoundly without collapsing into her tumultuous emotional world. The mistake isn't empathy, the mistake is disastrous overextension. When you rush headlong to absorb her pain, to meticulously fix her wounds, and to tirelessly stabilize her emotions before any commitment is firmly established, you tragically reverse the natural, healthy flow of bonding. She does not grow closer to the man who simply carries her burdens for free. She grows profoundly closer to the man she invests her own emotional energy into. That is the fundamental, immutable truth of how deep emotional attachment actually forms. Healthy emotional pacing looks markedly different. You listen, you acknowledge her feelings, you remain powerfully grounded, but you do not dive into an immediate problem-solving mode. You do not transform into her late-night crisis line. You absolutely do not permit her emotional storms to dictate your availability, or more crucially, your own identity. This boundary fiercely protects essential masculine polarity. Polarity thrives when there is healthy tension, necessary space, and undeniable mutual effort. It dies when one person becomes the sole emotional anchor, while the other is free to drift without consequence. Men frequently believe that pulling back emotionally makes them appear uncaring. In profound reality, it makes the entire connection cleaner, more authentic. It invites genuine reciprocity. It grants her the essential opportunity to step forward emotionally, to contribute her own emotional investment, instead of merely leaning back into your endlessly giving presence. And that is the pivotal shift. A woman bonds deeply with the man she truly invests in emotionally, not the one who merely carries her emotional weight without charge. When she has to show up, when she has to genuinely contribute, when she has to learn to regulate herself, attraction deepens naturally and powerfully. This boundary does not block intimacy, it meticulously preserves it. Because intimacy, that is not earned does not build profound desire. It builds crippling dependence. And dependence, unequivocally, is the absolute opposite of attraction. Calm distance. Never panic when she pulls back. This is the precise moment where most men tragically undo every single thing they did correctly before. Things felt good, the energy was palpable, the connection seemed undeniably mutual. Then something imperceptibly shifts. Her replies slow to a crawl. The initial warmth of her attention begins to fade. Her effort precipitously drops, and instead of remaining powerfully grounded, you descend into a gripping panic. That panic, understand, is instinctive. You feel the sudden distance and immediately assume something is fundamentally wrong. Perhaps she's overwhelmed by stress. Perhaps you uttered the wrong words. Perhaps there's someone else. And without consciously realizing it, you initiate the one action guaranteed to utterly destroy attraction. You try harder while she does demonstrably less. It usually unfolds in three devastatingly predictable mistakes. First, you compulsively fill the silence. She creates necessary space, and you frantically rush to close it. More messages, faster replies, an excess of unsolicited check-ins. What you are truly communicating in that moment is, I am profoundly uncomfortable without your constant attention. Second, you desperately try to reassure her. You offer boundless emotional availability on demand. You let her know, with every anxious word, that you are there for absolutely anything she might need. Every single word you utter quietly communicates one thing: fear. Fear of losing her, fear of the connection irrevocably slipping away. Third, you dramatically overcompensate. You plan more dates, offer more lavish compliments, give more of your precious resources. You turn the volume of your effort up, desperately hoping that sheer persistence will magically restore what distance has quietly removed. But attraction, understand, does not operate that way. From a cold power dynamic perspective, the very instant you increase your effort in direct response to her withdrawal, the entire balance catastrophically shifts. She now holds the frame. You, meanwhile, are desperately chasing it. And once that devastating imbalance irrevocably locks in, desire suffocates and dies. A woman cannot possibly miss a man who is relentlessly trying to close every perceived gap. She can only truly miss what has been given the essential space to genuinely disappear. Pulling back is not always inherently a test. Sometimes it is merely clarity beginning to form. Sometimes it is genuine interest naturally fading, and sometimes it is simply the natural flow of life asserting itself. But panic, every single time, twists every possibility into the same disastrous outcome: complete loss of leverage, profound loss of attraction, and the devastating loss of your own self-respect. Attraction never returns because you simply try harder. It returns paradoxically when there is genuine absence. That is the profound paradox most men vehemently resist because it feels so utterly counterintuitive. You were taught that effort fixes all problems, that persistence proves your immense value, that if you just show up more, love will magically stabilize. But authentic romantic attraction does not respond to sheer effort. It responds powerfully to necessary space. When you cease rewarding her distance with your increased attention, one of two things will inevitably happen, and both outcomes will work decisively in your favor. If she is genuinely interested in you, she will recalibrate. She will notice your absence. The imbalance will naturally correct itself. Her effort will rise to meet yours. Consistency will return, not because you desperately chased it, but because you courageously gave it the essential room to organically surface. If she does not come back, then the truth was already painfully evident. Your boundary did not cause the loss. It merely revealed it faster with undeniable clarity. This is precisely where men become emotionally paralyzed. They think, if I pull back, I will lose her. What they tragically fail to see is that they were already losing themselves entirely, desperately trying to keep her close. Never reward distance with increased effort. Effort given in direct response to withdrawal merely trains a devastating imbalance. It teaches her that she can diminish her investment while you are compelled to increase yours. And once that toxic lesson is profoundly learned, attraction rarely, if ever, recovers. Absence, however, accomplishes something effort never can. It powerfully restores polarity. It returns profound control to your side of the equation. It reminds her unequivocally that access to you is not guaranteed. And if she chooses not to step forward when space is courageously created, then you did not lose a woman who genuinely wanted you. You simply stopped chasing an illusion that demanded you abandon your own powerful grounding. That is the quiet, immense power of this boundary. It does not manipulate outcomes. It clarifies them with brutal honesty. You didn't lose her. You merely stopped chasing what was never truly yours. What you've just absorbed isn't merely a loose collection of dating tips. It is a potent system, 5 boundaries, integrated into one comprehensive framework, serving one singular purpose: protecting your inherent value before someone else decides what it's worth. These boundaries are not about controlling women. They are emphatically not about manipulation, and they are definitely not about becoming cold or emotionally disconnected. They exist for one profound reason only: to keep you from losing yourself entirely while desperately trying to keep someone else. When you master controlling financial access, you protect your fundamental leverage. When you powerfully shut down disrespect early, you protect your profound dignity. When you vigilantly guard your time, you protect your life's essential direction. When you carefully pace emotional intimacy, you protect vital polarity. When you stop chasing withdrawal, you protect your absolute self-respect. Together, these boundaries form an impenetrable filter. Women who are inherently drawn to structure, to genuine strength, and to undeniable self-control will feel profoundly safer and more attracted to you. Women who were only comfortable when you were over-giving, overly available, and over-invested will quietly and painlessly disappear. That is not crippling loneliness. That is undeniable, liberating clarity. Boundaries do not make you harder to love. They make it profoundly possible for the right person to love the real you without you having to shrink or diminish yourself to earn it. They ensure that when a woman genuinely chooses you, she is choosing the man you authentically are, not a diminished version who sacrifices himself merely to be tolerated. And if there is one truth I want you to internalize and walk away with, it is this: you do not gain true power by relentlessly demanding more from women. You gain profound, unshakable power by consistently requiring more from yourself. If this resonated deep within you, do not keep it to yourself. Subscribe now. Stay here. This channel exists for men who are done being confused, drained, and second-guessing their inherent worth. Like this video, share it with the man you know who keeps giving too much and getting less in return. And leave a comment below. Tell me which boundary hit you the hardest. This channel isn't here to comfort you. It's here to keep you from ever losing yourself. Comment. Finally, someone just said it without all the fluff. The provider. Audition hit different.